Oh, man. I mean, the inflation number comes out yesterday, almost double what the Fed targets, which is 2%, came in at 3.7. And somehow we're getting a speech today from the president where he's going to brag about how well the economy is doing. I don't even understand it. I don't know if it's just the audacity, cluelessness. I don't know. Steve Moore, he was a former economic advisor to President Trump when the economy was humming along pre-COVID, and now he's with FreedomWorks. He joins us on KCMO. Steve, does any of this make sense to you in terms of the game plan here from the White House?
Well, there's an old saying, Pete, that you try to, plaster lipstick on a pig, and I think that's exactly what's going on here. Look, this has been a terrible week for the White House in terms of economic news. We got, as you just alluded to, we got this report that came out, I think it was Tuesday morning, on the poverty rate in the United States and what's happened to median household income. And both of those reports were a total disaster. So the poverty rate went up in 2022 faster than virtually any other year in history, practically. The child poverty rate in the United States doubled in 1 year. That's success. Now, here's the other thing. If you look at the income data that came out in that same report, median household income since Biden entered office has fallen. Now, by the way, median means half of the households are above, half of the people in the exact middle. Their incomes have fallen by more than $2,000 in terms of real purchasing power since Biden came in office. These are horrific numbers. By the way, these reversed the trends under Trump. When under Trump, we saw, remember, a record low levels of poverty for every group, blacks, whites, Hispanics, women, men, any group you want to look at. And now we have poverty surging again. And then we had the price data that came out yesterday showing, inflation isn't over, folks. Look what's happening in gas prices. I don't know what you're paying there in Kansas City, but where I live, we're back to $4.30 a gallon. And, these oil prices continue to rise, which means that I don't want to ruin people's weekends, but we're looking at, gas prices rising by probably another 50 cents a gallon.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting in all this...
Pete,
yeah.
where is the success?
No,
when you say that, what is he going to tout? Oh, look, I brought poverty up to the highest level in 20 years. Look, incomes are falling. Look, Americans are struggling. They have record amounts of, credit card debt. Oh, by the way, we have the highest national debt ever in the history of this country. We're adding $2 trillion. I mean, really, this is farcical for the president to say somehow his policies are working.
Well, Steve Moore, you mentioned there the poverty rate was 12.4% came in for 2022. Yeah. That's up 5% from the year prior. But now what they're going to do is scream about how Republicans won't pass government spending programs to help the poor. Right. I mean, that's the talking point now.
Yeah, I just wrote a column on this, Pete, so I'm glad you brought this up. Do you know how much money in 2022, the same year that poverty surged? And by the way, we should be booming right now. COVID is over. There's no reason poverty should be rising. Poverty should be rapidly falling. And I will submit, now I'm biased, I'm a Trump economic advisor. If we had just stuck with Trump's policies, my God, the economy would be, orbiting the moon right now. So, that's my frustration, is that we changed the policies and it's had a very extreme negative effect. Now, my question for you, Pete, here's your question of the day. Do you know how much money in 2022 the United States government spent on anti-poverty programs?
It's in the hundreds of billions, if not trillions.
Yeah, you are right. It's in the hundreds of billions, but it hit $1 trillion.
Wow.
In 2022. So come on. They're saying the reason we have poverty is because we're not spending enough money. $1 trillion? That's more than the entire GDP of most countries in the world. And by the way, if we just gave that money to people, we wouldn't have any money in, people in poverty. It's because we've created this massive welfare bureaucracy. There's 52 different welfare programs. Why do we need 52 different welfare programs, Pete?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, none of this is saying, and I know you're not saying this, but none of this is being anti a safety net. It's just how big is your safety net, right? I mean, that's what this comes down to.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because we all look. We're a rich country. America is a very rich country. We can afford to keep people out of poverty. We don't want people going hungry. We don't want people going homeless. We don't want people. We want kids having good schools and all of these things. We can afford that, certainly. But my point is, we're spending so much money, and where's the money go? How in the world can you spend $1 trillion on anti-poverty programs and have 40 million people still in poverty?
Yeah.
And the explanation for this, here's the Steve Moore, anti-poverty agenda. It's pretty simple, Pete. Look, we should have programs that lift people out of poverty, but the condition of that, you ready for this, Pete?
Mm-hmm.
The condition is if you're going to get this money, you're going to work. You're going to have a job. You're not going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix and get a check from the government. And so this was the Republican policy when they had that big debate, last year about how to deal with these programs. Republicans said, look, you have to have work requirements for these things. I mean, my God, Bill Clinton, the Democratic president in 1996, signed welfare reform saying you have to work if you're going to get these benefits. And by the way, it worked. That was one of the most successful programs ever. We moved a lot of people out of poverty into jobs. Biden doesn't want any work requirements. None. Neither does Nancy Pelosi. Neither does Chuck Schumer. Oh, that's cruel. It's cruel to make people work.
It's the old give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, right? You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
That's exactly right, and that's what we found with the Clinton era welfare reforms. It was Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton, and what happened was as you move people out of welfare and they got a job, guess what happened with most of them? They started to climb the economic ladder. Maybe they started at the bottom and then they moved up. That's the story of America.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rich being on welfare. You can make a decent income from it, but you're not going to get rich. We want people out there working, being productive. And by the way, work is highly associated with happiness. People are sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day. They're not happy.
No.
You get self-fulfillment. You get a sense of self-worth, and you have, you're doing your community and your country a service when you go out work. So we're not doing any people any favors by paying them money to stay in their house.
Yeah. Steve Moore, economic advisor under President Trump. So last thing, Steve, how do you see...
Pete, I'm sorry. I'm a little angry this morning because these numbers are atrocious, and it is insulting to the American people for Joe Biden to go out, as he's been doing for the last couple of weeks, and he's going to do apparently in the next few days, is say how well things are going. It makes him sound completely out of touch with Main Street America.
And he's attached his name to the economic moment with Bidenomics. I mean, whose genius idea was that?
Yeah, great point. I mean, my gosh, now we're proud of what we did on Trumponomics. I mean, again, I know a lot of people don't like Donald Trump. They don't like his behavior. They don't like a lot of things he says, and they don't like what happened January 6th. I get it. But if you look at the policies that Donald Trump put in place on the economy, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, you got to love what he did for the country. And Biden, I asked, by the way, Pete, I had dinner with Trump a week and a half ago, and about 4 or 5 of us, and I asked the president, I said, what are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do, when you're reelected? Because I think he will be. And he said, I'm going to have a stack of executive orders an inch thick, and we're going to reverse all these crazy Biden policies. We're going to get America working again. We're going to put America first again.
Yeah. In a minute, Steve Moore, do you think that Powell's going to jack these rates back up with this inflation number yesterday? Keep moving them up?
I think we may see another 1 or 2. And, I'm not saying that with any happiness. Look at mortgage rates, Pete. The mortgage rate was 2.9% when Trump left office. Today it's 7.1%. That's put a huge, huge dent in the housing market. If you're a homeowner or a home buyer, you're getting crushed by these high mortgage rates. So, but what are you going to do when you have a president who comes in and spends and borrows $6 trillion? Gee, where did all the inflation come from?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Steve Moore. Always outstanding insight. The one thing I will say, though, Steve, is, we've been saying for 12 to 18 months, is there a recession happening? Is there a recession happening? And now they're predicting no recession. No recession.
Yeah, but you know what? You're exactly right. And I want to see the American economy fly, and I hope we don't have one. but there's a recession in people's incomes, at people's family incomes. Look at the credit card debt; it's over $1 trillion now.
Yeah, that is true. People are working, but their money's not going nearly as far.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Hey, Steve, you're the man. Thanks so much for being here on KCMO.
Okay, Pete. Have a great weekend. Take care.
You as well. Always great to have him on. Steve Moria was an economic advisor under Donald Trump. He now is with FreedomWorks.